and the consumption will remain the same. So what I want to say is here is that in any dish, if we add a pinch of MSG, we can reduce the salt intake almost up to by 30%. Now, how it happens? As I already said, MSG have 1/3 of sodium compared to regular salt. Now, how we maintain the balance is, we never say that MSG is a substitute for a salt, but how it gives the taste? Because of the presence of the soluble glutamic acid in MSG, it seal very nicely with the dish and help to maintain the overall balance of the taste. So without compromising the taste, we can reduce the sodium intake in the food. So which is a blessing in disguise. But unfortunately, in Eat Right India website of Government of India, you will see that they mention monosodium glutamate contains high sodium. Avoid using this. So which is not correct. Not medically, not scientifically. Now, another benefit, important benefit of MSG, it helps digestion of protein. So as I was presenting in my previous slide, science has found the presence of glutamic receptor in the tongue. Same way in 2006, scientist has discovered the umami receptor are exist in our stomach, which functions with our brain, and it helps promote the digestion and absorption of protein in our body. So these are the benefit of MSG. So to summarize, what is Ajinomoto or MSG? It's a umami seasoning mix which enhances the taste of the dish, and it is made from the finest quality of crops like sugarcane or tapioca through fermentation process. And how it came to the existence? 1907, Dr. Kikunae Ikeda, he extracted this umami flavor from kombu seaweed. In 1908, he obtained a patent for this umami seasoning. And 1909, Dr. Kikunae Ikeda joined hand with Sabrusuke Suzuki, and they commercialized that umami seasoning under the famous brand name of Ajinomoto. So the word Ajinomoto is a Japanese word, and the meaning is essence of taste. And we have a trademark registered in more than 180 countries for this brand name Ajinomoto. So what we as an organization want to say to all is, instead of saying no MSG, please know more about MSG. And to conclude, I just want to give some other perspective from our organization point of view. As a responsible, socially responsible organization, we focus not only to the economic value. That means we just not focus only the profitability, but we always very sensible, and we always contribute to the development of the society, or we always put our effort to resolve the social issues. And in our company, we coined this terminology as Ajinomoto shared value. And how we do it? So here you can see we focus more on biorecyclable production process. Quickly to show, for the production of MSG, we use sugarcane or tapioca, which comes from the farmland, to our factory. So what we need a complex sugar. We get it from that complex sugar, and in the fermentation process, we get MSG or Ajinomoto, and the co-product goes back to the field or to the nature in the form of fertilizer. It can be utilized. The co-product can be utilized as a fertilizer. So this is an example of socially responsible biorecyclable production process. Finally, another important aspect.
Mr. Biswas, I'm sorry to interrupt you because it is getting 4:30 and
yes, this is the last slide. Yeah, last slide. So another last example of how we are very sensitive to the society well-being. As an organization, we are constantly putting our effort to reduce the emission of greenhouse gas. What we do for the production, we use the raw material which is 98% in biomass in nature. As a result, you can see in these graphics, in last 1 decade, significantly we reduce the carbon footprint to the nature. As a result, the greenhouse gas every year we reduce emission by almost 2,55,000 tons, which is equivalent to almost 65 lakhs trees. So with this, I would like to conclude my presentation, and from here onwards, Dharani ma'am can take it forward for the open discussion. I really appreciate for all the learned panel members for your kind patience, and in between, sorry for the interruption.
Thank you very much, friends, for joining, and thanks Govinda and team and Ajinomoto and team for clarifying a lot of scientific data on Ajinomoto. So the way we take this forward is already I see a question by Mr. Vivek Raj or Dr. Vivek Raj. I'm sure, I'm sorry, I don't know the real these things. I'm not checking the list. So I'll start with that question, while others, if you wish to mute and ask questions, we're very welcome to it, right? But keep your questions short so that whatever little doubts everybody has, we can help them with it. So the first question I start while either you type or you want to unmute and ask. So Dr. Vivek Raj asks, MSG is one of the additives associated with migraine, as in most cases, natural product like tomato or others as a source of taste enhancer are better. Preservative like nitrates, nitrites also increase the risk of migraines. I put the answer to Govinda. Can you please answer this?
The question related to the migraine, the latest circular by International Headache Society, they have removed the MSG from the list or the cause of concern for the headache. So this is the latest report. If you want, we can share with your team. So you can share with the concerned doctor.
So Govinda, I have a question.
Yeah,
There was a lot of hype against MSG.
yes, ma'am.
So what was those based on? Neurotransmitters against pregnancy, people stopped using. I think people were using a lot of it. You know, it was not only in Chinese food. I think it started getting added on to every food product to enhance flavor.
Yes,
I know even in hospitals it started getting used because it was enhancing the flavor of soups and all. So there was a lot of hype. Suddenly, how is there been a U-turn?
Ma'am, basically from the pregnant woman point of view, like as you know, like in my slide also we have presented, even in mother breast milk also there is a presence of glutamic acid, which have almost 43% of the composition, and all other natural sources also have glutamic acid. So even if mother breast milk, from that, if the baby is consuming glutamic acid, if that is not harmful, then how come commercially produced MSG can be harmful? Why I am telling this? To substantiate that claim, research has shown that whether we consume glutamic acid from natural source or we consume glutamic acid from the commercially produced source, the response or the digestion process for that glutamic acid remains the same. So from these logics, it is we say it is not correct to claim that it is MSG is not good for pregnant women. Okay, that is one claim. And as my presentation say, like we produce it from natural sources, and the production process is also fermentation process and nothing artificial about it. So from that point, there is no harmful effect. Even FSSA in India and all global regulatory bodies, they recognized it as safe. And there is no acceptable daily intake level has been fixed by any regulatory bodies. So these are the key facts that it is not harmful. And controversy point, I have already shown what is the origin of this. Unfortunately, the country like India Pakistan and Sri Lanka, it has been influenced very much by this kind of, this is the main source of negative information came here. And the countries like Thailand, where we have another our other affiliates, there this kind of negative perception is not prevailing. That is the reality. And even the infant clause, it is not present in other countries. This is only present in India.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Govinda. We can make your answers a little short so that everybody can ask questions.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Please,
So I had a comment.
I can see Vivek sir want to ask.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I had a comment. So basically, the question is not whether glutamate is the problem or whether MSG is the problem. But like in many other food products, when we process it to synthesize something, the characteristic of how it responds in the body changes. Simple example is alcohol. You know, the foods have natural amount of alcohol, and the same grapes eaten will probably have certain amount of alcohol content in it already, because they're in the process of ripening, they'll have some alcohol. The moment you concentrate it and separate it out and you produce wine, it changes. There are also other things that come in fermentation besides the active ingredient. Other fermentation products come in. So that is one of the reasons why certain things will have nitrates and nitrites coming in, other things coming in when we ferment. So that's why the characteristic response changes. Simple. Another example is vegetables. So you have lauki, no problem. You have lauki juice, concentrated intake, many times it causes severe gastritis. So I think that logic doesn't apply, that just because it is present in natural products and we have obtained it from natural products, that's why it is not causing problems or it's not likely to cause problems. The logic is not quite right. However, I've taken your point that it is not something as harmful as it has been made out to be. What we have to see is the concentration, the amount consumed, all those things make a difference. So if you're consuming larger amounts in more concentrated forms, then yes, you are likely to have side effects. We have had patients with significant problems with diarrhea and abdominal discomfort following MSG. Again, they are going to be anecdotal to a large extent, but diet avoidance, they avoided MSG and things got better. Same thing with migraines, including my personal experience, that yes, MSG in Chinese food, which is the common source, or in other preservatives, so all the ready-made foods that we buy for taste enhancement, a lot of times MSG is added. So those things do cause problem symptoms, but one has to be aware of the concentration. And as much as possible, our recommendation as a gastroenterologist and as a physician is stay as natural as possible. So if you have to have a taste alteration, add the tomato, add the nibu, add the whatever. But the more you process it in any form, the more problems it ends up creating. Same thing with cornstarch. You can say cornstarch is harmless. Corn is natural product. You eat corn, no problems. You have cornstarch and higher dose of cornstarch, you get fatty liver, you get atherosclerosis, you get other problems. So I think the important message is that it has to be in very small amounts relatively, if it's in a concentrated form. And yes, it will alter the response of the body when you have a artificially produced same chemical as opposed to naturally produced chemical. That's the comment.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And maybe it's just a pinch that is taken. Once we stick to that, it may be useful. And thank you. Thank you for your thoughts and comments. Can we go to Dr. Jeffrey? I think he's raised the hand.
Yeah. Govinda, I would like to get your inputs regarding two things. One, literature say that, athletes, when they consume MSG, there can be interference in their performance, basically with respect to the failure of the aerobic metabolism. So how do athletes differ from normal people? And second thing, we all know that, once you take MSG, it's got addictive actions. And your take on both these questions.
Yeah. So I just come to your point. Before that, I just want to differ one point is that, as I said, like scientifically, no regulatory bodies has ever said there is a limitation for the consumption of MSG. And in India, FSSAI also has never prescribed any limitation for the consumption of MSG. And however, in our packaging instruction, we recommend some dosage. It's purely from the point of view to get the best flavor for particular dish. Now coming to the Jeffrey sir point of view, Ajinomoto is an organization who not only produce MSG, we work extensively on amino acid technology, and some of our amino acid products are not specifically in India. In other countries like Japan, it has been used for the sportsmen also. Now coming to the MSG point of view, particularly we can't claim, or anybody cannot claim, that MSG can impact the performance of a sports person, because this is a free glutamic acid. It contributes to the protein digestion, so it cannot have a side effect on the performance of the any sports person. Scientifically, it never have any correlation.
Okay. Thank you, Govinda, for that. And thank you, Dr. Jeffrey, for your question. There is this thing in the chat box which asks that what is the recommended safe dose? I think Govinda has mentioned it, Dr. Arvind Kidambi, that there is no safe levels mentioned for Ajinomoto. Yeah, anybody else? Can we have anybody else asking questions? Yes, go ahead, Dr. Ashok Kumar.
Not exactly a question. Maybe would want to differ with one of your slides that's projected in the interest of heart disease. Since I'm a cardiologist, maybe I'll take my interest here. 1.65 million deaths are actually, you projected it as causality between excess salt consumption and 1.65 million deaths. I don't think it's a causality. Salt is not actually proven to be causative factor. It is only an associated factor. So significant, both the terminologies differ significantly.
Okay.
That should not bring in unnecessary scare. Of course, yes, more than 5 grams salt is certainly not recommended in the interest of preventing risk factors for cardiovascular diseases. And I was really curious to know if you are projecting 1/3 of the salt as MSG has got only 1/3 of the sodium content in it compared to the salt actually in this salt that we use, table salt that we use. But how come that gets translated to because it is only an add-on to salt in the food recipes that is prepared. If you look at one of the observational data, actually the seasoned flavored restaurants actually add this MSG on top of already regularly added salt, so increasing overall sodium content to the food. That's not a single dish based. Actually, that's based on the overall mean level of salt consumption from the seasoned flavored restaurants. There is a data that mean sodium consumption, sodium content with the food consumed from these restaurants are quite high. So my feeling is MSG would be adding more sodium content to already added salt to our foods, probably burdening more on the cardiovascular risk factors like hypertension and cardiovascular disease. That's one thing. You said it can replace salt, but its taste is actually different. It gives umami taste, and salt has got a salt taste on its own. So both are like mutually exclusive. Taste receptors or taste this thing. So how can this actually replace or reduce on the sodium content? That's where probably I want.
Sir, thank you for the question. Actually, I can understand your query. So the issue here is you've given an example of a restaurant. I can understand the issue. So yes, there is lack of awareness among the Indian society. There is couple of obviously some restaurants who some chefs might be there in a mid-range restaurant or some kind of restaurant who are not aware about the salt reduction benefit of MSG. So what I presented in the slide, the fact is MSG have only 12% of sodium. That is a correct fact. And what you said, that is also correct, because people are not aware. Just to enhance the taste, they add up MSG. So actually, if you add MSG,
I think there's a problem in the net connection of Govinda.
My voice is not audible, ma'am. For others,
it's clear.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the issue is unknowingly, because people are not aware about this salt reduction benefit, they add up more MSG to increase the taste. But that is what now as an organization, now what we are trying, we are putting our full effort to educate the consumer that if you add MSG, you can reduce the content of salt. As you said, it is obviously separate. Salt have a different taste flavor and umami have a different taste flavor. But as I shown in the slide, if you reduce the salt, the acceptance of the taste of the overall taste of the dish, it comes down. By adding up that umami flavor, because it has a soluble glutamic acid in that, it helps to balance the taste. I never say that it is a substitute for salt, but still it can help to reduce the sodium intake. That is what we want to say. And now, we are at a very nascent phase. We started that initiative to educate Indian consumer about this salt
Got your
reduction
point,
benefit.
Mr. Biswas, because in the interest of time, let me conclude my version here. I agree with your points. MSG, so far, it's not, there's no conclusive evidence it's unsafe either in the interest of, cardiovascular disease. Only thing is it has a flavor enhancer ability. It has addictive or pleasure receptor stimulating enhancer, thereby increasing the probably tendency of increasing calorie content, of course, increasing the metabolic syndrome and indirectly increasing the cardiovascular disease. So as you agreed from your side that you're still in the nascent phase, we don't have conclusive evidence either that MSG certainly has a value in reducing oral salt content or value in improving the nutritional value towards health benefits or extending life of anybody. So since there is no conclusive evidence and you're still in the nascent phase, probably you should better come in the interest of public health, probably before you go on board, into the mass that approving it as a safer product, you should come with a proper formulation and proper formulation for the dosage, maximum permissible dose, and the proper formulation for the mixture between the salt or whatever the recipes to be prepared. Only then probably it would be better be recommended in the interest of public health. That's my point. Yeah, let me.
So, sir, yes, nascent phase means in India that initiative we just now started, but scientifically we in our affiliates. Yeah, please, ma'am.
No, quickly we need to wind up so that
I just concluded.
Yeah.
Can I ask?
The point
please.
is that sodium has to be reduced, salt has to be reduced. If we use MSG, we need to reduce the salt and other taste enhancers which has sodium, and that's the message, right, Govinda?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Can we move on to the dietitian?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, good evening, ma'am. I have a small query. I just want to know if persons with irritable bowel syndrome, by taking this MSG, will it aggravate or worsen the condition?
Dalimum, you can answer. You can answer the question.
Yeah, actually, I didn't hear the question, Govinda. I think I have some connection
So,
issues.
a person with a irritable bowel syndrome, if take MSG, whether it will worsen the symptom?
No, nothing like that, because MSG is just another glutamate amino acid. It will not interfere with IBS issues. It can be taken. It's not a problem. Only where sodium is an issue, we need to reduce the salt and use this. That's the only place in which MSG needs, slight adjustments. Otherwise, it's not unsafe to use in IBS. Yeah. Anybody else who has any questions?
Yes, I have one question where we said this MSG is present in breast milk, and when we are introducing weaning foods to the kids, is it a good option to introduce MSG rather than using salt and sugar? Just a thing which came up to my mind when we were discussing.
Ma'am, just to to elaborate this in a very simplified way, the infant clause regarding MSG is only not is only there, unfortunately, in India. In other countries, it is not there. So there is no age restriction even for the consumption of commercially produced MSG also. So that's why that experiment has been done in Japan, where the baby was below 6 months. It has been administered just for the tasting purpose.
So
I can see
there.
Nabanita ma'am have a question. Yeah.
So it is present in weaning food and in babies' food, right? In other countries, MSG.
Yes, ma'am. Like any food, it is present. Like even our neighboring countries, like also have in food ingredients, and there is no regulation which say it is not recommended for kids below 12 months.
Okay, and the natural glutamic acid present in our most of the food items is in the form of L-glutamic acid. Is the same composition in MSG? Is it the same thing?
Yes.
And it is.
Yes.
It
yes.
metabolized same way in our body.
Same way. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It
Because
is the same L-glutamic acid. Yeah.
Is bound with protein when we take in natural form. But you said it's a free amino acid, right?
Yeah. So the glutamic acid, what we make in a concentrated form, in the slide also I've shown, it is a free amino acid, man. So it is not bounded. It is not attached to any particle.
Any part, but will consuming that will increase the blood level of glutamic acid?
No, again, that point also, it is same as like natural, how our body will respond to the natural glutamic acid. It is not some different reaction for the commercially produced MSG.
Okay.
Okay.
And
anybody else?
Limit.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for the question. Anybody else wants any doubts cleared?
So, ma'am, I just have a small thing. So, being a dietitian, people will come and ask us what is the recommended dosage. And now you have told that there is no any recommended dosage, and whatever it is. So, this statement can be told to the patients or clients whomever is approaching us on this point, or later on, you might, as a company, people they might come up with any standardized dosage level.
Ma'am, it is very much we are ensuring you, it's not by us. Regulatory bodies has not fixed ADI for MSG. You can cross verify.
I've heard somebody quote as 30 mg per kg per day.
No, ma'am.
The European Food Safety Association.
So actually, there was in.
So these are the recommendations. I don't know. You should.
It is not. It is not established in India. Even FSSAI has not fixed any ADI for this.
So people can go overboard on it. Like I don't know. So there has to be some guidelines on what is the safer outer limit. Just like Coke or, the Diet Coke and sugar frees. There is a guideline for everything.
Yeah, actually, just to give an idea, ma'am, even a baby which is under breastfeeding, per day it consumes around 150 to 200 milligram of glutamic acid per day. So, like, so these are some of the statistics right now we have, but. Conclude this scientifically, no regulatory body has fixed any limit because they didn't find it has have any significant negative impact on human health.
No, but then when you're going to use it to enhance the flavor, like you have this Lays, you have all these dry snacks where this is being used and which are more carb based, definitely the quantity eaten will be more, and that's what is is going on right now. The research is not there so much to prove is it causing metabolic syndrome or it is causing any other health issues related to weight per se. But yes, as I second Anita ma'am, we need to have some regulatory
guidelines. Otherwise, I think we'll go overboard on it and then later say, this caused that problem. So let's not. Let's.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think maybe that's a suggestion, Govinda, to the company to give a number maybe later on. After this panel discussion, maybe that is the come out that has come to say that, we need to think of whether we need to give a number, whatever the number the company decides, though there is no safe level. Whether you want to think about it is something you have to.
Just to inform you, ma'am, like basically in our back panel also, just from the taste point of view, so that other component of the dish can be enjoyed properly without disturbing the other expression of salty flavor or spicy flavor, we recommend some quantity just from the taste point of view. Okay, example, for 1 kg chicken, we may recommend around 8 grams of MSG. So this quantity is just to get the best balance of taste, nothing to do with health point of view.
And how addictive are these?
Okay.
Actually, ma'am, as you was telling.
Thank you, Govinda, for that. So we have a number there for taste point of view, but otherwise there is no real, harm that can come from MSG unless overuse, which is true, I think, of any product, including salt or sodium, which we should not be using. The only caution is our country is always using a lot of sodium because we were agrarian before, and hence all these questions are coming from the panel, which is worrying that because it can increase the sodium level.
Can somebody unmute Ishikawa-san? He want to add a point in that. Sujata ma'am?
Sorry, regarding to this, Dr. Ashok, I just want to add up one thing that maybe I thank you for your point, and maybe our presentation made some misunderstanding. It means that, like, as Govinda said, MSG is not the substitute of the salt. So just in a very easy case, to just make it easy, if you're using 10 gram salt for a soup and reducing 3 gram of the salt for the new recipe, it doesn't mean that you need to add 3 gram of the MSG. Actually, adding the MSG will be less than 1 gram, I think. And in that 1 gram, around 12% will be the sodium. So yes, as you say, if losing 3 gram salt and adding 3 gram MSG, yes, maybe it will not make a sense. However, for the taste balance, you don't need to add 3 gram of MSG to substitute the salt. So that's why in the total balance, the sodium intake will be less. Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to correct. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Ishikawa, for coming back to me. I understand that, I understood that. Probably I just wanted it to be as a proper formulary to be made for the recipe making, or for the food preparation, since it goes as a mass to public. Should be made easily available for the chef, so that the public health interest is taken care. And one more point I wanted to make here, would want to differ with Mr. Biswas, if no offense here. The regulatory bodies probably did not make a recommended safe dose. Doesn't mean that there is there is no safety issues concerned at all. Probably there is no evidence to say which is the upper limit. That's since it's still in the nascent phase, or there is no enough research has happened with the product. So that doesn't mean that we can afford to go overboard. Of course, there is certain evidence to say that 5 grams of sodium exceeding is certainly a risk factor for cardiovascular diseases across the globe. And in fact, it is one common reason actually for Indian or in fact South Asians actually cardiovascular problems to be higher in average than the overall global statistics. So, I mean, unfortunately, across a cross-sectional study is done, not a methodological study, but cross-sectional random study with poorly conducted though, has shown that this MSG consumption, MSG as such, is not an unsafe product, but problem is in the recipe making, it is adding a salt burden, and probably MSG is actually has got an addictive potential and increased tendency to increase calorie consumption, thereby adding already existing burden of obesity and metabolic syndrome. So, I mean, it's in a good way, it enhances the flavor, but that's countering that becoming a counterproductive in the public health interest. Probably, no, these are the comments again I would want to emphasize.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Well taken, and let them, I mean, both you can have a discussion later again, or they can come to conclusions related the queries asked by all of you. Thank you. We can take one last question because we're reaching the end of the session almost. Anybody? Do you have any other queries? Okay. If nobody is coming forward, can I hand over the session back to the organizers? And I think we are almost done with it. Over to you, Sujata.
Thank you, Dharani, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Dharani. Thank you, Govinda, and all the panelists. I think we have answered. Mr. Govinda as well as Dr. Dharani could answer most of your questions. If there are any more questions relating to this topic, please feel free to write to us. We can connect with the organizers over the organization of Ajinomoto and answer the questions on that. Yes, it is a very controversial topic. We would like to get more clarity, Mr. Govinda. So we will be connecting, with all the panelists, and if we can get clarity on most of the topics that were discussed out here right now, that would be great. And as a magazine, we would like to get clarity and spread it across to the medical fraternity also. What can be done using MSG, and what are the impacts, and how we can use it in our daily diet.
Yeah, on behalf of Ajinomoto India, I really thankful to all the panel members for taking time out of your busy schedule. And this was a great opportunity to interact with you. And we have encountered with various questions, and some of the question we able to answer, and some question we got, and we'll definitely come back with some response. And this is let it be the first interaction, and definitely in future we'll definitely come back with some more interesting detail about MSG. And because of time limitation, even though we have some documents, we are not able to share. Example, later I'll be sharing, we can perhaps share with Sujata ma'am, like MSG there is some research done in North America that it perhaps help us to reduce the calorie intake. There is some research I'll be sharing, so can share with the prospective doctor. So I'm really thankful for all the team members for coming in the board. So can you take a snap with all the members, camera on, if you don't mind? Okay, thanks a lot for being part of this event.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, and have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dharani.
Thanks so much,
Thank you,
Sujata.
ma'am.
I can leave. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
हेलो हाँ बोलिए चेक करके बताती हूँ क्या अपॉइंटमेंट है करके ओके नहीं नहीं काम पे हो नहीं 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 मीटिंग के अंदर हो तो इसलिए नींद आ गया ओके ओके ठीक है मैं मैसेज करती हूँ ओके ओके बाय